Hey, this is Passy from Passy's World of ICT, the guy with the white hat. And today we've got a lesson for you on arrays, and arrays are a new type of storage structure which we're going to be looking at. And you need to process them with 4 next loops, and then the results are to read out of an array and get it onto the screen. You need to use something called a list box. So a list box is another type of storage structure, but that particular one is visible on the screen. All right, so yeah, let's get started here with the lesson. All right, so we're going to start off by making this form here. All right, that's what it looks like when it's blank. Now we won't make it all at once. There's a lot of things on there. We'll do it step by step. So first we'll just get our tennis dream team in here with pictures of the players, and we'll be able to list their names out of the array. And then we'll work on adding these other pieces as we go. You know, work in stages, build something, test it, just like we've been doing in the previous tutorials. And then we'll build it up to this finished product here, where you can click list names. It lists the names of those people on our tennis dream team. If you hit message box, it does the same thing, but puts it in a message box. And this is actually just one string variable here with line returns, carriage return, line feeds in it, but it comes out like that, so you can read all the names in the message box. And then we'll be able to find players. So if you have a look for Roger, he's not in the list, so it'll say player Roger was not found. And we've got reset and clear buttons. So look, we might as well just go and have a quick look at this. Why not, while we're here? So, okay, here's the program as it starts off. And look, you don't have to do a tennis team. If you want to do kind of a little soccer dream team or a basketball dream team, an NBA dream team, just have 4 players for this exercise just to make it nice and simple. Or maybe you want to have your 4 favorite anime characters or something like that. You can do that. It's up to you what you choose for this particular practice one. And then at the end, we're going to give you a little assignment to do to check your knowledge of this. All right, so what happens is we've got our players there in our pictures, and if we click list names, it puts the names into this list box over here. So we've got Alden, we've got Anna, Bernarda from the USA, John from Australia, Anna's from one of those Eastern Europe countries. And then we can also do message box. So message box is kind of the simpler way of listing an array, and that'll put out their names as well. So we'll probably do this one first, then we'll get into the list box later. So we can do that. And we also have a search here. So we can search through this array of our 4 names here and see if we can find someone on the team. All right, so if we put in, say, Anna, for example, and do find player, and you got to make sure you don't accidentally put a space in front there, or it won't find them. So Anna is a member of the team, but if we try someone like Roger, Roger 4, okay? Roger 4 was not found. And so people that aren't on the team, like let's say we've got Marton. Is Marton on our dream team? Player Marton not found, okay? So that's doing a search of the array here, the list box, and if it can't find it, it just says that it's not found. Then we've got clear and reset buttons here. So we can clear it and can't do the message box. Now, that reason for that is because what's happening there is that the array wasn't loaded yet. This list box wasn't loaded. And remember back in our previous lessons on string processing, if you try to reference with indexes like index 0 here for the first name in this empty list box that's got nothing, because it's got nothing, it can't be indexed and you get this program crash, okay? So the thing about that was you need to list the names first, and then the message box can actually go through and have something to look at there. So the previous work we've done actually on, previous work we have done, which was on string processing, all right, with 4 next loops. You need to have done that before this lesson, okay? So if you haven't done like the Regex ASCII validation lesson, if you haven't done the validating a password and don't know how to do 4 next loops and indexes and strings, you'll find this lesson more difficult than if you'd already done those lessons, because the lessons are on our website. You're supposed to do them in order. Anyway, let's get on with it. We have covered variables in Visual Basic previously. So a variable is just a storage compartment for an item of data. and particular variables are defined to hold particular data. Okay, so we've got something here which is a string, and we need to use the Hungarian camel case naming, STR for its Hungarian abbreviation, and last name. You should be totally used to this by this stage of the course. We've got our int number of visitors there. That's an integer, that's just a whole number. So that's in that storage box. And the Boolean fees paid, whether they've paid their fees or not, that will be a true false data storage box. And that particular one there happens to have a true in it. Okay, so arrays. To store the 4 members of our tennis dream team, we could just use 4 different string variables. So we could set up, okay, string member 1 is Alden, str member 2, that's equal to Anna, str member 3, we're going to put Bernarda's name in that one, and str member 4 is for John. Okay, so we've got our 4 string variables and the names in there. All right, the variables have all got similar names, but they're going to be stored just kind of randomly all over the place in the computer's memory. And it's going to take a lot of coding and processing. Like if we wanted to put in, say, you know, players who are on the ATP World Tennis Tour, like if we wanted to have a top 100 or something, we don't want to have to define 100 separate variables in our program and you know, have to go to them each individually. All right, there's a better way of doing it, and that better way of storing big groups is arrays. Okay, we're only going to do a little group of 4 for practice in our learning lesson here, but arrays can expand up, and you could have 100 people or even all of the people that are on the ATP tour in an array in your program. Okay, so an array is a collection of related variables, but they have to be of the same data type. So we can't go storing like someone's name and someone's age just in this single dimension array that we're going to be doing in this lesson. It's one data type. So the one data type we're storing is names for this lesson, and we're going to store their string names, store the names as strings. So we can set up an array for our tennis team, and it's going to look something like this. So they're our members, Alden, Anna, Bernarda, and John. And so Alden will actually be referenced by members bracket 0. He's the first one in the array. Anna is members brackets 1. Bernarda is members 2, and John is members 3. Now, if you haven't done our string processing lesson previously, all this 0, 1, 2, 3 will look really weird, because aren't those players like player number 1, 2, 3, 4? Why have we numbered them 0, 1, 2, 3? Like, that's really weird. And you have to remember, in Visual Basic and other programming languages, it's not just a Visual Basic thing, that they start the counting at 0, okay, which is very confusing when you're a beginner programmer. So this array has 4 items in it, but the index values, or the names of the 4 different storage compartments, storage compartment number 1, number 0, even I'm getting mixed up, number 0, number 1, number 2, and number 3, okay? And these guys are all next to each other in memory. It's kind of like it gets this big slab of memory and puts it up, divides it up into compartments to make an array. That's kind of what's going on inside the computer. All right, so think of an array as a set of storage containers. They're all the same size and types, and just like this set of drawers here, we've got like a set of 10 kind of storage drawers here, which we can use for storing items in our home or office. So there's our drawers, and we've got 10 of them. But the top drawer there, starting at the top, that's drawers bracket 0, okay? That's our lower limit. That's the beginning of our array there, right up the top. And as we go down, we've got this pink one here, this hot pink colored one. So it's kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's like drawer number 5. But just remember, in Visual Basic and other programming language, because we started numbering at 0, it's actually drawer number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that one is drawers brackets 4. Okay, so that's out of these 2 pink tubs, that's the top one. And if we look at that very bottom drawer, which also happens to be pink, oh my goodness, how'd that work out? They're all pink. which matches the labeling. So isn't that really cool? Okay, so that's drawers brackets 9. So, you know, this is hard for beginners because you think, hang on, wait a minute, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's drawer number 10, but remember we're starting the numbering at 0. So it'll actually be drawer number 9. So the size of the array or its length is 10. There are 10 compartments there, 10 storage compartments. We've divided that stack, which is the array, up into 10 separate storage compartments that are all the same size and type, but we've numbered them from 0 to 9, not from 1 to 10, and that's like the really confusing part of arrays. And here we've got a drawer of kitchen utensils, and in there we've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different compartments in that one, and they're all the same size and type. The compartments, not necessarily what's in them, but they all have utensils in them from the kitchen. And that's a 5 storage compartments array, and this would be utensils 0, working from left to right, utensils 1, utensils 2, utensils 3, utensils 4. So this last compartment wouldn't be number 5, it wouldn't be utensils brackets 5, it'd be utensils brackets 4. So that's a bit tricky. You've got to remember this counting from 0. So how do we define an array in Visual Basic? That was kind of like some real world arrays using drawers and compartments in a kitchen cutlery box, but you know, there's several ways we can define an array in Visual Basic. So if we're looking at days of the week, so the week's got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So there's 7 days in the week. And in April, that actually works out that they're numbered 1 to 7, which is kind of neat. But if we dimension the array, we actually dimension str weekdays bracket 6, and you might be thinking that can't be right because we need bracket 7 because we've got 7 things to store, but the bracket 6 means that 6 is as far as we're going with the storage when we start counting at 0. So weekday 0 will be Monday, then we go through, and when we get to Sunday, it's not actually 7, it's string weekday 6. So this is saying that the last one kind of is number 6, which really, because we started at 0, it's 1 more than that, and it's number 7. Look, once you get used to this, it's fine, but like when you first start, it is just such a painful nuisance. All right, so the indexes go from 0 to 6. If you use string weekday 7, for your definition up the top, you'd actually get 8 storage compartments set up inside the Visual Basic program, all right? And also, if you try and reference things outside of here, like if we've only set up 6 and we try and code string weekdays brackets 9, what'll happen is the computer will kind of go off the end of the kitchen utensils drawer and it'll just fall down onto the floor, all right? So it'll crash. So don't do that. You've got to be very careful you don't go outside of the dimensions of the array. All right, now you can also declare an array like this. So we can do it going across the page and not worry about putting the bracket number in, which is kind of useful. You know, Visual Basic will work it out itself. So we can just go string weekdays bracket and we put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and Visual Basic will work out, hey, this is a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is actually string weekdays 6. So anyway, they're the 2 ways of kind of defining a basic one-dimensional string in Visual Basic. So we can define an array to store our tennis team members, because remember we've got 4 people here and want to store their names. So we're just going to have dim str members. We're going to go for the horizontal method, just brackets, and we'll have Alden in quotes, Anna, Bernarda, and John. Okay, so that's going to set it up in computer memory, in this big slab of memory where they're all right next to each other, which makes the maximum processing efficiency, especially if you're trying to put like 100 people into the array. Dimension it a lot bigger than it is. So Alvin's members 0, that's how we find Alvin. We look for members bracket 0. And if we wanted Bernarda, we have to do members brackets 2 to reference her if we're referencing her in the program. So we can write a for next loop to go through here. So just like we did with substring processing back when we were doing validation, and it's really handy if you've done that lesson previously, if we want to get all of the names out of the storage boxes here, we can just say, okay, for I equals 0 to 3, okay, let's work our way through the loop. And it'll do Alden, then it'll do members 1 is Anna, then it'll get the third time through the loop, it's going to do members 2 Bernarda, and so on. So the thing is, we can look at them all in the memory, but this is inside the computer, the array, okay? It's storage. Now, how do we get it out onto the screen? Like when we have something in a variable, a program variable in memory, just a single thing, remember we could move it out into the text box text and show it in a text box, or we could move it into the label text and show it in a label. But when you've got a big slab of 4 things here together, how do you show that out onto the screen? So how do we open up that storage drawer so that we can actually see what's in there and display that on the screen? And that's what we're going to look at next. All right, so you might like to pause the video at various sections and follow along and try set up these things and make sure they work. Okay, so we've set up a form here and we've just got 4 picture boxes, and this blue thing is actually a panel. We'll explain that later on. So a panel is just kind of a square that you can put, rectangle that you can put other things on. And we've just made a different colored background on the label there. But yeah, we've just got 4 picture boxes basically with 4 pictures in them. And if you want to do the Tennis Dream Team, our one, we'll give you the pictures for free. Go to the downloads link, they'll be for free and you can get those, the pictures. And what's going to happen here is we're going to store it in the array, their names inside the program with that program code we showed you just before. And when you go list names, it's just going to make a little message box here that lists out the 4 names. So it's going to go into those drawers, open them all up, find out what's in them, and display that information on the screen. And the method of display we're using is just a message box, okay? You can display more than 1 line of things in a message box, and we'll show you how to do that right now. Okay, so here's the code, and this is what you need to put in once you've made your form with the 4 images on it and your little button that lists the names. So that's called btn list names. So that's how we set up the array, string members like we showed you before. So have that with your particular member names in there. And then you'll need to double click on that button on the form. It's called btn list names. And we just dim the string output name as string. So we're just going to have 1 variable here that we're going to go through the array, and we're going to get all 4 things crammed into this 1 variable, okay? So we just write a little loop here for int subscript equals 0 to 3, because we know that's how many there are in here, 0, 1, 2, 3. We're going to get the string output name variable and we're going to add on to it. So we're not setting it equal to something. If you don't have this ampersand sign to keep adding on to what's in your string variable, you'll only get the last player's name that you did. Only John will come out. But what we do is we say this amper equals and sign equals. That means keep adding on as we go through this loop. So it's going to take the string members int subscript. So first time through, int subscript will be 0. So when it tries to find string members int subscript, it'll try and find string members 0, and it'll go and grab Alden because he's at index position 0. He's the first guy in there. And it's going to put Alden's name here. And then ampersand VB new line just makes it jump down a line and put Anna here. Now at the moment, it's doing all this inside that 1 variable, string output name, okay? And that's the ampersand equals that enables you to do that, okay? So it's going to go through here 1 by 1, int subscript 0, int subscript 1, and so on, till it gets up to int subscript 3 and grabs John. And it's going to put a VB new line, a line feed or a carriage return here so that John comes out on the next line after Bernarda. If you forget to put this little bit in here with the adding on a new line command, they'll just come out all squashed up together across the page, okay? So once we've finished loading up that variable, we just put that variable into the message box basically, and that will enable it to show up here, okay? So that's how that's going to work. And you need to code that up and try it out and make sure the message box display of an array is working and that you know how to do that. So perhaps pause the video and do that right now. All right, so now we could use message box and dot length. Instead of doing 0 to 3, the current array contains 4 items which are indexed from 0 to 3, like we were discussing previously. Now, the length of the array, how long it is, how many things are in it, is actually 4. Okay, so Visual Basic doesn't kind of do weird things there. It does actually count 1, 2, 3, 4 for how long it is. Now, for the array code, what you can do is you can have strMembers.length. So if you put the name of the array here and put a dot length on the end, Visual Basic will work out, hey, let's go check how long that is, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it'll return the result of 4. All right, now because we have 4 items, but they're indexed from 0 to 3, we have to do the for loop as array index is 0 going up to 3. Not 1 to 4, okay? Now thinking about that number 3, that's how we wrote it previously, and you should have tested that and got that working. So 0 to 3. Now there's another way we can get that same 0 to 3. The length of the array is 4, and if you do 4 minus 1, you'll come up with this 3 here. So if you took the array length and took 1 off it, then you could find out what the last index number in the array is. Okay, so that's 4 long, but the last number isn't 4. It's 1 less than that. Array length minus 1. And say this was 50 long with 50 names in it. What would be the index number of the last one in there? Well, it wouldn't be, you know, strMembers brackets 50. It'd actually be the length minus 1. So it'd be 50 minus 1. The last one would be strMembers brackets 50 minus 1, which would be 49, okay? So this is really handy. If you don't know how long the array is, or if you want to have capacity for it to expand in size later on, you can just code your loop as for int subscript equals 0 to string members.length, how long the string is minus 1, okay? Because that's going to be where the last item is in the array. Now, if you've done the substrings lesson and understood that, this will all make sense, especially if you did that validating password lesson, which was a fairly recent lesson we added up. So setting the loop for as 0 to array length minus 1, that's the best way to process an array because that will work for any size array. Okay, so this enables you to start off with a little array of test data and then you can add more data in later and you don't have to change the code because array length minus 1 will just keep working no matter how big your array is. So we could take our string members and we decide we're going to add in Serena and Roger as a couple of new members. Now, what we can do is if we've got it set up like string members.length minus 1, well then the program will cope with that fine. It'll work out, okay, this is 6, so the last guy is 6 minus 1, 5 there for Roger, and it'll find him okay. All right, so that's the best way to actually do your for next loops, is to have the array name and then put dot length and then subtract 1. That's the way we should be doing them, all right? And then that'll work and we'll get Serena and Roger showing up in our list as well. All right, now we're gonna use the more sophisticated thing, the new thing, the list box. Now you might wanna pause the video at this stage. Try add 2 more players, 3 more players, 4 more players, however many you want, into your existing array. Change that loop so it's doing strMember dot length minus 1, okay, and just make sure it works and it puts out all of your players when you click the list names. All right, now that project is finished and you save it and then close it down. Now it'll be sitting in a big size folder, the main top level folder. We should, I suppose, try and show you this, what we've done in ours. Okay, so the top level folder's here. Now, as long as you got that top level folder that's got the solution inside it, what you can do is you can just copy this and then you rename it to your next one. And then when you want to do another version, just take the very top level folder here and copy it and just rename it. But as long as you don't change anything down in these lower ones, okay? Don't change any of them. So that's what we're talking about in the presentation here. No, I'm not on the right one there. So we can take the previous one because that's got some of the things we need on it, or just start a brand new one, all right? And this is the form for the brand new one. Maybe it's just simpler to start a brand new one. All right, so we're gonna need a group box. Now remember, a group box, it's best to get that onto the form first, and then the other things go on top of it. If you've already got these things here and you put the group box on, sometimes it'll go over the top and block these so you can't see them. Then you might have to right click on it and kind of do a send to back, or find how you can change the stacking order and get it on the back. So anyway, I just got a group box there. Now we've taken all of the text out so that it just looks like one big box with no writing in it. And we've made the back color this steel blue color, okay? And that's that bit. And what we've got here, this light blue color here, which is steel blue, we've got that as light steel blue, so it's a bit lighter than plain steel blue, which is this one. That's a panel. So a panel is another thing you drag out of the toolbox, and that just makes kind of a square here, this long skinny rectangle. That's just kind of nice because it's making it look like our pictures are all in frames, all right? And then these four guys in here, of course, are just picture boxes. And then we've got our BTN list names here, and the picture boxes, and make sure your size mode equals stretch on those. And we have another group box over here, but in the text, you set that one to say player names, and that'll make this kind of player names up here in the top left-hand corner of that group box, that steel blue colored group box. And then this guy here is something new. That's a list box. So we're going to call that LST names. That's going to be the name of that. And for color, the writing, we want it to come out this navy blue color and have a font size of 12. And down in here, we've just got a label. Okay, LBL load finished, which is just going to put out a message when the list box has been loaded up. So that's got a few properties on it as well. So anyway, start a new project is the easiest thing. Pause the video, get this whole form set up, and then come back and we'll get into the coding. All right, so we can use a list box, and that way, rather than message box, the names will go straight onto the form inside this list box. So this time when we click list names, what it's going to do is it's just going to put the names here into the list box and not put up a little message box of OK or anything like that. All right, now the list box has this thing called adds. So you have to add another element to the list box, all right? So here's our program code that we had. And so we've got our array defined up the top, just like we did last time. And we've got the BTN list names button, the same as last time when that's clicked. And we've got a thing called string output name as defined. And we're just setting it up to have nothing in it to start off with, just a pair of quotes. And then we write a for next loop. Now we should have done our str members dot length here -1, shouldn't we? But anyway, we've done it 0 to 3. Now to add the current members of this array into the list box, you actually have to do a special thing. You have to go listnames.items.add. The add is really important, and put string members, whatever subscript you're up to. So this looks really horrible and complicated, but look, it's not that bad. When we're on I equals 0 first time in the loop, we're doing string members number 0, which is Alden. So it's going to add Alden into the list names list box, okay? Now you might be thinking, hang on, why couldn't we just say listnames.items, all the things in the list box, and go int subscript, which is 0, and just set this one that's 0 equal to it, and it'll just move this one straight into the list names one. Okay, now that won't work. It'll actually cause a program crash. And the reason is that at the moment, the list box is completely empty. And remember, when you have something that's empty and got nothing in it, and you try and index it all, index it at all, like put this int subscript trying to index it, Visual Basic goes there and it says, hey, there's nothing in here. There's no kind of drawers I can pull out. There's no indexes in here. It's just like a big blank open space, a hole in the wall where we haven't put the drawers in yet, or something like that. Okay, so it's got to be this way. Otherwise you'll get the program crash. So we go around our loop, getting all 1, 2, 3, 4, or 0, 1, 2, 3 of them. we add them into the list names, and then we're going to display when it's finished here. So that label we set up, we're just going to have list box loaded appear into that label there. And what will happen here is when you add them, it's just going to put Alden, Anna, Bernardo, John, add them into this list box that we're making onto the screen. Okay, and don't do it that way or it's going to crash. So here's the story on this. What we've got is we've got our members array, but we have to put it into a list box. So after the list box is loaded, we can actually read through the list box. No, let's go back up there. All right, so we've got an array, and that's inside the computer in memory, and we can't see it. And we've brought it out into a list box now, and the list box is an item on the screen. That's pretty much the same as an array, but it's kind of like when you've opened up the drawer and you can see all the kitchen utensils in it. And so we've got those names in a list box, and now we've got them in a list box. What we can do is we can also take them out of the list box and put them into a message box, okay? So we're just gonna add our good old message box from version 1 back into the program. Why? Because we can, that's why, all right? And it's gonna be fun. All right, so adding another button here, that when that one's clicked, it's just gonna do our good old message box, all right? So remember how we had this for next loop with the string output name ampersand equals, and if we just go listnames.items brackets int subscript, now that the thing's loaded, don't do it before it's loaded or it will crash, and we can still get our good old message box out as well, okay? So I'm gonna have this new one, btn message box, this guy, so add that onto your form, and then double click on that, and for the code for that guy, you just need to put this in here, which is on this screen. So pause the video and do that and test it out. You should be able to list the names, have the list box come up, and then click on the message box and have the message box come up as well. All right, so as we told you before, they're in the list box, and the list box is kind of a lot like an array. It's just got items stored in it, and they've got index values, but you have to refer to them as lstnames.items brackets 0. That's where Alden is. So you can just go through 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, grabbing those, and then you can put them into this str output name with their carriage returns, and then make str output name come out as a message box, okay? Message box here, like we did before, okay? So that's how all that's working. So just think of a list box, it's kind of like an array, but it's one which we can see onto the form on the screen. Okay, now arrays versus list boxes. So the array is inside the computer program, so that's like a closed drawer where we can't actually see when we're on the form, we can't see what's in the array. Now we might want it that way because we might be just storing things in the array, like a whole 4 different people here, but maybe we only want Bernarda at the moment to be the one on the screen and have her picture in a different program. So it's not like you always want to automatically make a list box to show everything that's in the array. The array is a storage structure, and we don't always want to open it up and show it on the screen, as we'll find in some later programs we do. All right, now how the list box is different is the list box is like the drawer opened up, so you can always see what's in the array when you've got a list box on the screen, okay? Now that's a difference. It's sort of, one you don't see, it's inside the computer's memory. The other one you can see on the screen, all right? So you'll just have to remember that. And also referencing them with the array, it's just the item name for the array, like members bracket 0, but remember with the name of the list box here, which is LST names, you've got to add on that .items bracket 0 and .items brackets 1. It's not just LST names bracket 0, all right? So remember to put the .items on. That's another little difference between the two things. Now, I think we're getting near the end now. You can search arrays as well. So here are 2 search results from the finished code, a found item and a not found item. So like we showed you at the start, if you type in Anna, it searches through here, it starts at the beginning at 0 there for Alden, and finds a match here. So it says Anna is a member of the team. But if you put put in Roger to search for, it'll go through here and it'll go Alden, Anna, Bernarda, John. Hey, I'm at the end of the array. This is at max length and I haven't found anything. So we're right at the end. So player Roger was not found is the message you get out there. Okay, so we're going to actually do a linear search, add some more group boxes and things onto the form to do a search. So this is an array search. So first we need to add a group box here. So we have a group box and just set that text on that group box to search for members. And then we're going to add a text box that's called txt search request, and make sure these names are these actual names because they're the ones we're going to use in the coding in a minute. And that's btn find name. And this one's a label that's kind of set to 3D, so it's got lines around it and stuff. And that's going to be LBL search result message. All right, so you might want to just pause the video and add that onto your existing form down that bottom left-hand corner where it was on our form on the previous kind of slide that we did. Okay. All right, so you've got that set up on your form. Now, before you write the actual code, we're going to go through some pseudocode. All right, so for a linear search of the array, we start at the beginning of the array and start looking to find a match for the name that they've typed in to that text box. So one of two things can happen. We find the item we're looking for somewhere within the array, and that's good. We can say a message that it's found, or we reach the very end of the array and we have not found that item which they put in the text box, and so that's a not found result. Okay, so here's our members array, and let's say in the text box they put Anna, which means we need to search for Anna. How this linear search works is we'll start at the beginning of the array, we'll say nope, that's Alden, that's not equal to Anna. We'll go to the next one, Anna, hey, they're a match, so Anna is found. And we stop right there on the second one where we found the result we were looking for in the array. Now, if you're searching for Roger, what happens is we begin at position 0 again, right at the start of the array. And this time we'll go Alden, no, that's not Roger. Anna, not a Roger. Bernarda, doesn't look anything like Roger. John, no, definitely not Roger, but we're at the very end of the array, okay? So once we hit end of array, that's it, we stop searching and we're not found. So there's kind of two things that can stop our searching of the loop or stop our for next loop or our while loop that we're going to write, and that is that we find someone. So if we get partway through the array and find someone, we're going to stop. But if we go all the way to the end of the array and we haven't found a match, so if we hit the end and we still haven't found them, then we're going to stop as well. And it's very important that you stop here and you don't keep going into random computer memory, because that will crash your program, okay? So it's extremely important not to search beyond the end of the array, or that will cause a definite program crash every time. All right, so here is the pseudocode. So remember, just think about when we were searching for Roger and just picture this array we've got here in your head while you're reading this. So we said item found is false and end of array is false. So they're the two conditions which could finish us up, and we don't need to do any more processing. So we set both of those to false at the beginning because we want to start doing some processing. We don't want to end yet. If either of those becomes true, we know it's time to end. So we set our initial subscript to 0, so they'll start us searching down here at Alden, the first guy in the array. And then we ask them to input the search request item. So in that text box, they type in what they want to look for. So while the item found is false, so while we haven't found a match yet, and while we're not at the end of the array yet, that we've still got room where we can keep moving to the right and searching, we're going to keep doing this loop here between the while and the end while, okay? And so we're going to say if the array item subscript that we're on at the moment in our loop is the search request item, then we found it, item found true, and else we're going to do this. End of array could be true if we reach the maximum subscript. So we need to calculate the maximum subscript. Where is the end of this array? This array is length 4 and it ends at number 3. So length of array minus 1, 4 minus 1 is 3. That will tell us where the end of the array is, or the maximum subscript index we can go up to. So yeah, that's an important calculation our program needs to do as well. All right, so we need a loop that ends when either the search request is found or we've not found it, and we're at the end of the array. So the user inputs a value they want to search for. We keep looping until we either find the item or we've got to the end of the array. If a match is found, that'll get set to true, and because of this while loop here, the conditions are false and false. If one of those becomes true, like found becomes true, that's going to stop the loop, so it won't do any more repeats, okay? And if we reach right up the end and that becomes true, that's going to stop it too, because they both have to be false because of this big and in the middle there for the loop to continue. All right, if we're at the last subscript, it's end of array, so we set that to true and that will end the looping. Otherwise, just move the subscript along 1. So we were at 0 first time in the loop. Move it along by 1 and just go back and try again. Check, does this next one along, Anna, does that equal the one that they typed in here? Okay, and we just keep going till we've gone all the way through, or we've found the person that we're looking for. So that's kind of the pseudocode, and you need to understand how that works, because then you'll understand this Visual Basic code. So this is the code here, and this is where we set up the while and the end while. Now, it kind of goes down underneath here, so we just kind of put it over here. So you don't have two end whiles. Like, this is the end while, that's where we're up to, and then underneath this end while you put this code here and get to the end sub. All right, so pause the video, add that code into your program and check whether that search box works and whether it can find people on your team. And for people that aren't on your team, it just gives a not found message onto the program. Okay, now that's the last major bit of coding we're going to do. We just got a few little things to finish up. So yeah, pause that, get it in there, test it, make sure it's working. Okay, welcome back. We're in the home stretch. We just need a reset, clear and exit button. So we're going to add some 3 more buttons. So we're just putting a group box there that's called reset/clear, and the buttons are called btn reset, btn clear, btn exit. All right, and clear and reset are actually going to do the same thing. All right, it's just that some people call it clearing the form, some people call it resetting. So we just decided we put 2 buttons and they're both going to have the exact same code. All right, now you can actually take that message box that's already the right size and kind of click it on your form and go Control C to copy it, and then go Control key on your computer, Control V, Control V, Control V, and make 3 of them, and then just change the writing in them, and then they'll all kind of be the same correct size and stuff. That's a quick way to do it if you want to do it that way. But either way, get those 3 buttons onto the form. And the coding for the button, for the reset button, we're just going to have our list names, our list box here, clear all the items that are in that, clear out that message that said the list box had finished loading, and clear what they're searching for in the text box. Now we've put a space in there, which is a bit of a problem when they come back, because it has a leading space, we noticed, before the name, and then it doesn't find names. Might be better if that doesn't have a space between the quotes, okay? I'm not sure why we did it that way, but perhaps try it without a space in between. The are you sure confirmation, that's just going to have something a little bit extra in here that's going to put yes, no buttons on there so that they can decide, oh, do I really want to close down the program and finish? Maybe I don't. So they've got a sort of a way out with that no button. All right, so that should enable you to finish all of that project. And then here is your turn, your little assignment. So we showed you really early on how you could set up an array for the 7 days of the week with their names, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on. So yeah, set that up in a program, and then the program needs to read the array, put the names in a list box and a message box to display them on the screen, create a search function so that we can look for a day. Now, the different thing on this is that when you find a day, you're going to show its picture. So go to Google Images and find pictures for the different days of the week. So you might like this one, Cheers to Friday. So you snip that out and you put that in a picture box on your form, and then go back to the dice, the random numbers dice project, where we showed you how you could stack a whole bunch of different pictures on top of each other and then just make only one of them become visible, so that, yeah, if someone puts in, say, Friday into the search box, well, it'll find Friday as a valid day of the week. But as well as saying that it's found Friday, we also want suddenly the picture for Friday to appear on the screen, okay? And then if they do another search and find Tuesday, we want the Friday one to just go invisible, and then they can pop the Tuesday one over the top. Now, for the not found message, maybe you'll have some special picture box for that as well. It's just an unhappy face or something like that. Okay, but that's a little extra challenge. Get this picture box showing up using what you learnt in the DICE project. So we'll leave you with that assignment and see you in the next lesson. And today we've got an array of smiley faces at the end, all stacked up there together. So we did have some stock images in this. I think you have to say when you do something that you've got purchase stock images. I haven't been doing that before, like those happy face ticks and crosses. They were purchased from 123RF, so I've actually paid for those so that there's no copyright issues. Yeah, so if you like this video and you found it helpful, it helped you learn about arrays, well then give it a big thumbs up on YouTube, the like button. And remember to subscribe to our channel because we're putting out videos every week. This week we're trying to pump out 2 videos actually in the one weekend. Which is a bit of a challenge. But yeah, there'll be 1 a week, and at the moment they're kind of on programming, which would be really useful if you're doing VC software development here in Melbourne, Australia, or doing programming anywhere in the world. This is going to be useful for you. So subscribe to our channel so that you get the updates, and enjoy programming in Visual Basic, and lots of smiles and happy times, let's hope, and we'll see you in the next lesson.